Well, the economy has long been a top issue for American voters. This year, about 8 in 10 registered voters said it would be very important to their decision at the ballot box. But data about the economy and voters' experience of the economy don't always match up. For example, inflation has dropped to 2.4% in September. That's close to the Federal Reserve's 2% target, but prices are roughly 25% higher than they were in 2019, and many families are still struggling with the price of groceries, gas, and other basics. Doug Herbert, our international affairs commentator, these are issues that a lot of voters blame on the current administration. That's given Republicans an edge because they seem to remember being better off when Donald Trump was president.
And the Kamala Harris campaign has contended that they're misremembering, and they're also misremembering, they would say, the circumstances of the Donald Trump administration. Generally, Joe Biden was inheriting a COVID-stricken economy, from which he pulled out of. And their argument is that he pumped a lot of stimulus into the American economy, basically brought the economy back from what had been the brink. A lot of people do not remember this at this point, when he came to power, just how teetering things were. And so their argument has been all along that, and it's perhaps unfortunate if you're a Democrat or a Democratic strategist, their argument has been that a lot of the beneficial things that Joe Biden did to kickstart the U.S. economy, which, like I said, was very wobbly when he came into office in 2021 in January, a lot of those things are yet to be felt. You're not going to actually have the effects being perceived and felt for maybe a year, 2, or even 3 years out from now. And that's obviously too late for this election. What's interesting is that, though, it's not just the perception of how people feel and their feelings. And you can't argue with people how they feel. This is how they're actually experiencing it, like you said. But a lot of Americans have told pollsters, more than half, that they believe the American economy is in recession. And just factually, now you could say that, don't be semantic, don't start a quibble with semantics, Doug. But factually, the U.S. economy is in recession. And the numbers you just gave, right now, in the last quarter, 2.8% growth for the U.S. economy. The Economist cover a little over a week ago was the U.S. economy, the envy of the world. You have unemployment plumbing real lows right now. Wages have been relatively stagnant, but they're slowly rising. And even though you had a weak jobs number in October, only 12,000 jobs added, that was because of back-to-back devastating hurricanes in the Southeast, plus a Boeing strike, which is now over. So all of these factors taken together suggest if you're a Democratic strategist, what you're probably feeling right now when you see economy rating so high among those who support Donald Trump is probably regret that somehow Joe Biden wasn't able to better sell his economic achievements to the American
voters. We're going to
voters.
continue discussion on the economy in a second. I just want to bring the latest results. Associated Press is calling that Colorado has gone to the Democratic nominee, Kamala Harris, her picking up an additional 10 electoral votes. Let's pick off where we were just leaving off. Nita, I want to ask you about that, because what you were saying about net neutrality earlier, about Democrats missing the messaging in their own campaign. Why are so many Democrats voters feeling like they're not hitting the right notes with their strengths on the economy?
Because I think the interview questions so often ask the politicians or strategists to tell us what this category wants and this category or this demographic. And really, what seems effective for anyone's campaign is something that cuts across groups, that unifies people in their desire to have something in particular, like free internet, free and open internet. And that said, I'm going to make a turn and talk about what white women want, okay? So white
like
women,
a Mel Gibson movie.
I like that, making a turn. So white women voters went for LBJ and Bill Clinton. And then, of course, they preferred Donald Trump over Hillary Rodham Clinton in 2016. Why? Because there was that unifying project or unifying proposal and execution by Donald Trump. And that was the tax model that well-to-do white families live under. It's the tax model that has a married couple with uneven salaries, and a couple that has equal salaries are taxed at a certain rate. This is all what I've been working on with my students most recently. And in 2017, with the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, That is the big tax plan that I had mentioned a few hours back that cut across many different types of families that wanted tax cuts. And it's not just when we see the black men saying, Donald Trump gave me a check. Sure, the president's name was on the recovery checks. But the deeper way that the Trump policies have affected people have been with the continuation of tax cuts, and specifically the 2017. And when people say, oh, the Trump economy was strong, that's what they're talking about. And there has not been contextual reporting to really show that that is what the voters have been saying, that they think Donald Trump has done better than Joe Biden and Kamala Harris.
I want to turn to Sean. Kamala Harris has said that her first priority would be to reduce housing and food costs for working families. Why aren't her kind of concrete proposals that she's been put forward resonating enough with voters? Why do they still think that Trump is the guy to go to on the economy?
I think that all presidents basically inherit an economy from their predecessors. It's really, really difficult for a president to take action that has immediate effect on the economy. And I think after, 30 years of politicians coming and saying, here's a plan, here's an idea, I think a lot of time, this was a lot of the impetus behind Trump's winning in the first place, right? Trying to cut through, he's basically saying, look, on both sides, they're giving you these little plans. And what we need to do is something big. We need to really change the way this economy works. And, he played a lot on, he was running against Hillary Clinton in 2016. And it was, of course, her husband who had taken the Democratic Party really into the era of globalization, right? And it was a Democrat who embraced globalization, said to, the white working class, look, we need to embrace the idea of global competition and, we'll retrain you and we'll do all these things. And when, when Hillary came in and didn't have a strong enough answer to say, okay, well, we've had this for 30 years. What are we going to do about it? Trump profited from that. When I think voters hear Kamala Harris talking about, these very sort of specific, pointed programs, I think they hear, in some sense, just another Democratic politician giving them sort of a little bit of crumb, when what they really want to hear is, look, we're going to move on. It's time to move on from globalization. What comes next? And they did not get that from Kamala Harris.
But what would Trump's offering? Tariffs on any country that ships more than it buys from the United States. A lot of economic analysts are saying that would be disastrous for the U.S. economy. Why don't the Democrats point that out more? Why is that playing in the favor of Donald Trump?
They do point that out. They absolutely say, Kamala Harris has been talking for the last year that this is, she calls it the Trump tax. Right. And that's certainly an argument, right? I think a lot of people, though, are, I don't think they're convinced by Trump's argument. Right? Trump never has an argument. He never has like an actual policy. He breaks things, right? And he doesn't have a what comes after it. But this puts the Democrats now in the position, which is very strange for the Democrats, of defending globalization, of defending global trade, of defending immigration even, right? Which, as the party of the working class, this is, not something, in fact, that's historically but what the Democrats have been for. But they are almost forced into this conservative position, and they are not offering, so what's their alternative? How are we going to move forward on the economy? And I do think people have wanted to hear that.
And then the fear of the immigration issue, as we were talking. And so the Democrats have had to play defense on that. Specifically, when Kamala Harris was interviewed by Fox, she said that within hours, a bill to fix the immigration system was put forward. And then she outlined that it would have provided asylum judges and all those things that are necessary at the border. And we all know that it failed. But what the voter hears is...
And the reason it failed, I think it's important to point out to our viewers, the reason it failed is there was bipartisan support for that bill. As you will remember, Republicans, not all of them obviously, Republicans joined with Democrats on a bill that had flaws, but they all agreed it was a good compromise on an extremely complex issue that they knew could not be resolved overnight. The reason that the bill did not pass is because basically Donald Trump At his behest, it did not pass. He urged Republicans to vote against the bill, and he was subsequently accused, even by some within his own party, well, some dissidents within his own party, of basically putting his own political ambitions. He didn't want to see Biden scoring political points on a key issue in the heat of a campaign, putting his own political ambitions above a real desire to try to at least take the first baby steps in trying to resolve a very tough issue.